improve for the next time around. So if I keep repeating the same word over and over, I'll be able to hear it, and I'll say, oh, yeah, I can't believe I kept saying that. So that's purely what that's for. Okay, first of all, welcome. I'm glad you were able to make it and find parking. Which, yeah, exactly. It's Brooklyn, so somebody, I don't know if you're here, but called and asked what parking is like, and the answer is, oh, there you go. The answer is it's Brooklyn. So, good luck. All right. So, what is sciatica? That's really the first question. Anybody want to take a stab at it? What is sciatica?
Exactly what you just said, stabbing pain.
Okay. Good answer. Stabbing pain. Any other guesses? Anybody brave enough to?
It has to do with the spine, something.
Something with the nerve.
Something with the nerve. Something with the spine.
And some people it starts by the neck.
I'm sorry.
And some people it starts by the neck.
Starts by the neck. Okay.
Goes down, right?
Sciatic nerve.
From the sciatic nerve. Okay. Sciatic nerve is a good
The
answer.
longest nerve going down.
Excellent. So the first question was, right? The sciatic nerve is the largest.
Videos and reading.
Oh, okay. So somebody's doing their research.
I read and I watch videos.
It is the largest and the longest nerve in the
I have no
body.
idea what I do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Going from where to where?
So what's,
Well, it is actually more than one nerve. It's really a bunch of nerves.
Bundle.
It's primarily two nerves that run down the back of your leg, coming from your lower back, down the back of your leg, all the way down your calf, into the foot. So if you have a problem with your sciatic nerve, you can get pain anywhere from the lower back, all the way down into the foot.
Is that connected
what's the
with
Sciatic nerve is the.
Yes, we're gonna get there.
Can I
Right?
just ask one question?
Yeah.
With the pain going down, could it affect all the way down like around the foot of the ankle here?
Yes, absolutely.
There could be pressure on the ankle?
Yes, because anywhere that the sciatic nerve travels is where you can get pain. So the sciatic nerve is this bunch of nerves. It's actually be about this thick, which is, considering a nerve in the body can be like, you know, thin as a hair. That's pretty thick for a nerve in the body. It can be about as big as a man's
It's a
thumb.
bundle of nerves.
It's a bundle of nerves, and it branches off as it goes down. So it, you know, it sends branches into the leg, branches into the foot, etc.
So what do we write when the pain running down the back of the what?
Back of the leg. Pain runs down the back of the leg. And what it feels like can be numbness, tingling, pain, right? You can get spasms, you can actually get cramping. Some people feel cramping, and other people sometimes feel heaviness. So you might feel like one leg is heavier than the other when you're walking. You might find, you know, you try to put on one shoe, you can lift the leg up okay, and you try to put on the other shoe, and you got to give it a boost. It doesn't quite work so well.
Any healthcare professional who's worth a damn, right away can tell you, he knows right away who's doing it. They know right away exactly what it is.
Well, that's why they're healthcare professionals, right? Yes.
Does it have to do that your feet are always cold?
It can, but sometimes the cold can be more related to a blood circulation issue, which can also be caused by similar problems that are causing sciatica. So you can have an issue in your back that's affecting both. But since the sciatic is a nerve, it certainly can give you the sensation of feeling cold. It's not always the case, though.
Does it
Now,
have to do with the herniated disc?
we will get there. Good question. Wow, you're stealing all my thunder.
She probably should experience all that.
We can switch places. It's
No,
problem.
we didn't come to hear her.
Okay. All right, so who am I? Since you came to hear me, you might as well know who I am, right? Okay, so my name is David Ettinger, and I'll tell you how I became a physical therapist, or at least why I became a physical therapist. So I was 19 years old. I was studying in Israel for a couple of years. I came home. I was very excited. I got a job as a lifeguard in my parents' bungalow colony. Now, I was 19 years old. I had a place to stay. They were going to pay me $5,000. I was happy as can be. I had nothing, no expenses, right? This was money in the bank. I was already spending it. You know? So we get to the bungalow on Thursday afternoon. We unload the cars, and Friday morning, first thing I do, I'm 19 years old, just back from Israel, I go play basketball. That's what 19-year-old boys do. So I go play basketball, and I don't think it took half an hour until I jump up, not very high, but I jump up, and I feel a big pop in my knee, I crumple down on the floor, and that was it for me. So that was Friday afternoon, of course, because everything happens on Friday afternoon. So Sunday, I was able to get an appointment for an MRI, and the radiologist told me right then on the spot, he says, I have bad news for you, you tore your ACL. The ACL is a ligament in the knee. It's a common sports injury, not that I consider myself a big athlete, but anybody can tear their ACL. So that was on a Sunday, and that Thursday I had ACL reconstruction,
Wow.
which is a 2.5-hour procedure.
Just by jumping?
Just by jumping.
It didn't even hit you?
Correct.
How could it be?
The ACL sometimes is a non-contact injury. A lot of runners can tear their ACLs.
So what caused it?
It was weak. I
Maybe you
twisted it just
slept
the
too many
wrong way.
boxes after when you came out of the bubble.
What's that?
Maybe you slept too many boxes in the bubble, Melanie.
Who knows? It could be. It could be.
Hey, and it's one thing what happens to
It does. Whatever it is.
You didn't
That
exercise
like
your
the
workout
meniscus
before you,
of the knee?
basketball,
Yeah. Well, maybe I just needed to learn how to play basketball better. That's also possible. But it's not quite the meniscus. The meniscus gets torn also when you tear your ACL. But anyways, to make a long story short, I had this 2.5-hour surgery to put my knee back together, and spent the next 9 months doing therapy.
And where was the lifeguard?
I'm sorry?
The lifeguard was.
Yeah, the lifeguard had to hire someone else because
$5,000 you spent
yeah,
already.
$5,000 down the drain. I had to return everything I had already bought because I wasn't getting paid. And then I spent the next 9 months doing therapy. And at some point in the middle of that, I said, you know, I really actually enjoy this. I could see myself doing this. The other option was to be an accountant, and I couldn't see myself sitting behind the desk. So I went for, I decided to, I was just starting college then anyways, so I said, okay, I'm going to enroll in science courses, which for me was a big step because I was terrible at science in high school, I'll be honest with you. That was not my subject, neither was math really, but science definitely wasn't that. So I said, okay, I'm going to start with science. If I get an A in Biology 101, then I'll continue and I'll keep taking sciences as long as I'm getting A's. Because if I can get an A, then I can, then I know I can, look, physical therapy is going to be a hard program, right? So if I can't get an A in college in basic sciences, how am I going to manage in physical therapy school? So that's what I did. Anyways, I got a lot of A's, and that led me into physical therapy. I graduated in 2007 from Columbia University. So that's how I became a physical therapist. Then my career started in outpatient, a place like this in Manhattan. But working in Manhattan was no fun because there's a lot of commuting involved. And traveling to Columbia on West 168th was enough commuting for 3 years. So I said, okay, I gotta find a job in Brooklyn. So I went to work for Revival Home Health Care. I don't know, many of you may be familiar with them. So I worked there for almost 4 years, doing home care full time. But I became a little disenchanted with the whole home care system. If any of you have either been through it or have had family members, go through it, you know that the therapist comes in, and the first thing they say to you is, well, we only have about 4 visits. You're thinking, oh my gosh, what are you going to do with me in 4 visits? And the answer is not much. All you're going to do is you're going to teach them how to use the walker, maybe get in and out of the bed, and say, okay, Medicare tells me I have to discharge you. So I just felt like when I was doing home care, I could not do enough with my patients. Like, I'd get them a little better, and then I'd have to say, okay, go see someone else to really, give you that final makava patish, that extra finishing blow, help you really get back on your feet. And I was gone for that part. I felt like I was missing the best part. So I said, okay, this is not enough for me. So I opened up my office in Borough Park. That was the first office. And over the years, Baruch Hashem, the office there is busy, and I decided I wanted to come back to Flatbush. This is where I grew up. So I wanted to, I used to get a lot of phone calls from people from Flatbush. oh, I want to come see you in Borough Park. And I used to say, no, thank you. I'd say, no, thank you. You don't want my business? I said, by the time you try finding parking after driving half an hour to get to Borough Park, you're going to hate me so much, you're never going to want to come back. I'd rather you just go somewhere in Flatbush and not be angry at me about the commuting. But at some point I said, you know what, it's time to open up in Flatbush. So like we were talking about before, I said once I'm opening up another office, it's go big or go home. So here we are.
Very
We
nice.
opened up, thank you. So we decided to open up a proper
When was that?
gym.
When did you open this?
We opened here a year ago, November. So November, December, January, February, March. Yeah, almost 17 months ago.
Because I met you once at 39th Street on the 53rd.
Welcome back.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't remember.
Is physical therapy useful for Bell's palsy?
Great question, but completely irrelevant to what we're talking about, so ask me after, and I'll be happy to discuss it with you. Okay, so that's a little bit about me and how I ended up here, how I ended up a physical therapist. Now, over the years, I've seen a lot of patients, specifically a lot of back pain, sciatica, low back, you name it, you call it whatever you want. And so we put together a list of the top 10 questions that people tend to ask when it comes to their back pain and what they need to do about it and what it means and so on. And we put it together in a little report, which we will be happy to give to you on your way out for your leisurely reading. And hopefully you'll find that informative as well. All right, so let's get back to back pain. How many people here have had back pain in the last 30 days?
The last 30 seconds.
If you need to stand up, you're more than welcome. I will not be insulted. Most people have had back pain in the last 30 days. What caused your back pain? Somebody tell me, what caused your back pain in the last 30 days?
As far as I know, a deterioration of the
Not
lower-
what the reason is. What activity? Standing, walking, sitting,
walking, standing.
walking,
Yeah.
standing,
Yeah.
Also?
Changing positions.
changing positions, okay?
Getting out of bed.
In and out of
You
bed.
tell me from right now and arthritic condition manifesting itself.
We will discuss it. What caused your back pain in the last 30 days?
The arthritic condition.
Okay,
I have a one problem whenever I get out from bed.
getting out of bed, okay?
Think something
I would
heavy.
say more like sitting or standing,
Sitting or
like
standing.
too long, so like I
Okay.
have to get up like every 20, 30 minutes is good.
So standing for a long time also, or mostly sitting for a long time?
Varies.
Varies?
See, I came from sitting in the car for a long time.
Sitting in the car, that'll do it. How about you?
Housework.
Ah, okay, the infamous housework. So you find it like pushing the vacuum or cleaning or anything bending? Okay. Go
I
ahead.
think something heavy,
Lifting.
like a
Okay.
mattress.
Yeah.
Yes, the cat is born. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Does that have anything to do with that?
Maybe.
What do you think? When I
Maybe.
sit, like, I feel like just sitting too long in one place, I get a pain.
You're getting pain? Okay, that's certainly.
Then I have to just get up for a
Certainly
minute and I'm
possible.
fine.
Yeah. Okay. So this is something very important.
So you sit, that's where the pain comes from. So you sit there, that's where the weight pressure. Right. They say good for your eyes.
Did I spell that right? Reproducible? Is that, okay, good. I'm a physical therapist, not an English major. So, this is a really important question. Is your pain reproducible? That means, can you make your back hurt? Now, I'm not saying I want everybody to make their back hurt. The question is, can you identify things, motions, activities that make your back hurt? This is extremely important because if your pain is reproducible, then it should also be reducible.
Ah.
If you can figure out what makes your back hurt, he likes my play on words. If you can figure out what makes your back hurt, then you also know what it's going to take to reduce the pain. So, if someone has back pain, all the time. It never goes away. They tell me it's a 7 out of 10 pain, 24 hours a day. It affects them when they're sleeping, when they're walking, when they're sitting. Nothing changes it. That's not a great sign. Go ahead.
When I lay down, that's when it's better.
But are there other times that your pain is better and times that the pain is worse?
Always, always.
Yeah, so the question then again is, are there activities that make the pain better or worse? Because if you can make it worse, then whatever you're doing is contributing to your pain, right? So that's really important, because if we can figure out what's contributing to your pain, then we can figure out how to help your pain. So if you, for example, if you always get your pain when you're bending backwards, then we know that, right? That doesn't mean joining Cirque du Soleil. It just means, standing up straight. Sometimes you lean back for something. It could be any one of 100 different times or ways that you move your body. You are getting pain in a certain direction. So we know that if we can get you to hurt in one direction, then we can help you by moving you in another direction.
Crossing your leg,
Yeah.
make you hurt.
It can. It certainly will put some pressure on the nerves, right? You're pulling
Some
them.
people say never cross your legs, but it could do a lot of problems, so.
Crossing your legs, I think. Welcome. Come on in. Join the party. Crossing your legs is also an issue with circulation. You have blood vessels and so on behind your legs, so when you cross your leg, you can block the blood vessels and put some pressure on there. Now, the number one single biggest mistake that people make with regards to their back pain is
Slapping.
maybe, but no.
Bending.
Ignoring it,
Oh,
yes.
ignoring it.
They ignore their back pain. That is the number one mistake, because if they don't know what to do about it, they just say, oh, well, I guess there's nothing really to do about it, right? So they ignore it. Now, ignoring your back pain does not mean saying my back doesn't hurt, right? What it could sound like is, oh, well, my father had back pain, and my grandfather had back pain, so that's why I have back pain, right? Meaning there's nothing I can do about it, so I just have to live with back pain. That would be ignoring it, because you're not actually trying to figure it out, you're just making excuses. Or, oh, my back hurts because of the weather, right? I mean, come on, everybody's laughing, but everybody's also heard people say this.
It's just arthritis.
It's just arthritis. There's nothing I can do about it. That would qualify as ignoring the problem, because that's certainly not trying to solve the problem. It's just making excuses for why you have it. So ignoring the back pain is certainly not the way to go, right? The second thing to do is to alter it. Now, what do I mean by that? So imagine you were in a building and you hear the smoke alarm, right? Fire alarm goes off. It's telling you what? There's a fire in the building, right? So you know how you alter it? You cover your ears, right? Now there's no fire alarm anymore because you don't hear it. Now the fire is still raging somewhere, right? The smoke is billowing out the windows, but you've altered it. You've altered your perception of it because now you don't hear the smoke alarm. So when it comes to back pain, what do you think altering your back pain might sound like?
Not going to the doctor or whatever.
Well, that would be ignoring it. I'm not doing anything about it. You know how you alter it? Say, oh, I'll just take Tylenol. Yeah, as if Tylenol is somehow going to solve your back pain. Now, it may make it not hurt at the moment, but it's certainly not going to get rid of your back pain, right? It's just covering it up. It's like covering your ears in the smoke alarm. You're not actually dealing with the problem. You're just making believe it doesn't exist. So you're just covering up the symptoms, right? And the third thing is deal with it. Now that doesn't mean deal with it like accept it and don't do anything about it. It means figure out what's causing the problem and address whatever that is that's causing the problem. Because just to alter it, certainly not the way to go, right? No doctor's going to tell you that taking whatever pill it is, whether it's a prescription pill like Celebrex or something like that, or Advil or Tylenol, whatever works for you. No doctor's going to tell you that that actually solves the cause of your problem. Now you might have inflammation in your back, and your inflammation is causing your sciatica. So you take an anti-inflammatory, and ta-da, now you have no inflammation. But guess what? How'd you get inflammation in your back? Something is causing the problem. And if you don't figure out what's causing the problem, you're just going to end up right back where you started, right? So it may get rid of the problem today, and in a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you're right back where you started, dealing with the pain again. So the best thing to do is to figure out what is causing your back pain, and the best way to address that particular cause of the pain, right? You can't address the cause of your back pain by, if you don't identify what the cause is, you really will have a difficult time addressing it. So you need to figure out what is causing your back pain. And that leads us to the next question. What are the 3 common causes of back pain, right? So the first one that we will discuss is a herniated disc. Everybody's heard of the infamous herniated disc, right? So, herniated disc. First,
That's what I
well, meanwhile, you'll let me finish telling you what it is, and then you'll decide if you really think, come on in, there's a chair right over there, or we can grab a chair in the back for you if you'd like. Here, let me help you out. Excuse me. All right, so a herniated disc. Let's see how well I can draw and how well you guys understand this. Okay. So what do we have here? Excuse I'm not an artist, but I'm doing my best up here. Okay. Anybody want to take a stab at it? What do we got? Vertebrae. Excellent. The bones, right? Okay. Most common level to have a disc herniation? Anybody?
Lumbar.
Lumbar. Okay, good. The spine are leveled, right? They're numbered in order. So L1, L2, L3, L4, L5. Most common level would be
7, 8,
L4, L5. Right? That's the lowest lumbar vertebrae, L5, and that is the most common area to have a disc herniation. So if these are the bones, what do you got in there? You got your disc. Right? So when you talk about a herniated disc, that's the disc sitting in between the two vertebrae. We'll get there in a second. So behind the disc here, in the front, you have fibers that hold the disc in place, right? Also, you have ligaments there that keep everything in the right place. So if this was the back, then this is how you're looking at it from a side view, and this is the front, like the stomach here, and this is the back over here. So besides for the disc, what else do you have here? Really important. Anybody want to guess what the red is?
No.
That's the spine. That's right, that's your spinal cord. That's exactly right. Now the spinal cord runs right down the back, behind like the body of the vertebrae, right down the hole. If you look at the spine, there's a hole in the back, and that's where that runs. Besides for that, you have holes on the side where, like, imagine this is the tree trunk. You also have branches that come off at each level. Those are the nerve roots. So you have branches that come off at each level like that. These branches come together and form the sciatic nerve. right? So if you have here, instead of your disc being nicely contained, now it starts to bulge out like this. That'll start to put pressure on the spinal cord. Now it could also be that it doesn't bulge straight back, maybe it bulges a little to the side, and it starts to put pressure on the nerve root. So if you've ever looked at your MRI, and it says you have a bulging disc, that's what it means. Now if it says you have a bulging disc at L4, L5, that doesn't mean you have two bulging discs, right? That means this disc between L4 and L5 is where you're having bulging. Now,
Connecting one.
that's right, it's in between, so they name it for the two levels. That's really the point.
How does it affect, how can it tell from myelogram, that kind of condition?
What they usually do to identify it is they'll do an MRI.
They do a myelogram?
That, not really. I'm not saying they can't, but that would be atypical.
Or is that the?
Maybe if someone has a pacemaker or some other implanted device that prevents an
Before
MRI.
pacemaker came in, but at one time, years back, they used a myelogram for that.
You know what? That's a great question for a radiologist. We'll ask them. Yes.
Is the L4 and the L5 in the center of the back?
Yes. It should be.
So why then? I don't
Why are you getting pain on the side?
On the side.
Right.
Great question.
That's what I also.
So again, this is the spinal cord coming down the middle, right? Straight down the middle of your back, right? In the middle of the actual vertebrae. There's a hole and it runs right down the middle, right? But it branches off at each level into the nerve roots. So if you're getting some bulging from the disc that's putting pressure on the nerve root, then it's going to be sending pain down that level. So you might have pain coming out or pain coming down, right? And depending on where, does it ever go up? Pain is a funny thing.
Goes down.
It generally travels along the nerve, which is heading down.
Does
Could it go up? Yes, but that's not usually nerve-related pain. So you can get something called referred pain. It's a little out in the weeds for what we're talking about, but referred pain, in a nutshell, is you can have, say, kidney problems that cause back pain. You can have liver problems that cause shoulder pain, because there are referral patterns to pain. So pain doesn't always present exactly where you have a problem. It could create an issue if you're like, you have a knee problem and you have knee pain, and the problem maybe is coming from your hip. You could get referred pain like that, but that's not really what we're discussing.
So something like this also makes sense when it comes from going into your hip. This
You
pain.
can certainly feel this kind of pain in your
You don't really know where
Yes.
it is, but in the hip area.
Yes, yes, and very often we'll have patients that come in with hip problems, and they've been treating their hip, and nothing's been helping, and they still have this hip pain. And the doctor does an x-ray of the hip and says, oh, you have some arthritis. So right away they say, okay, that's it, your problem is hip arthritis, let's do a hip replacement, right? Sometimes that is the case, but sometimes the pain is coming from elsewhere. And the arthritis is there, but it might have been there for 10 years and not caused any problem. You don't know unless you have a history of testing to back that up, which is actually quite interesting. If you went out on the street right now and you took an MRI of 100 healthy adults, how many of them would have a bulging disc?
90%.
That's pretty close.
Yes, I know.
How many of them will have significant back pain that relates to their bulging disc?
90%.
Not even close. Most of them won't have any back pain at all,
Why do you say that?
because that's the fact. People, just because you have something that shows up on a picture, does not mean that it relates to your symptoms. And this is really, really, really important, because everyone here has very likely had some type of imaging done, x-rays, MRIs, something. And you read it and you get very scared because it has all these terminologies that you don't understand. You have to take out your medical thesaurus to start to figure it out. You have Wikipedia and, Googling it, you're on WebMD and you think you're dying tomorrow because who knows what it tells you, right?
You become a
So-
nervous wreck.
You become a nervous wreck, and let's be honest, all it is a picture with no motion, not related to your symptoms at all, taken at one moment in time. You're making faces, but I promise you that this is true. Okay? Yes, go
What's
ahead.
the difference between arthritis?
Good, we're gonna get there.
And rheumatoid arthritis?
You know what, that's a good question when we talk about arthritis. Remind me and I'll answer that. But the point here is this. Who gets disc-related back pain? What age is the
Oh,
typical
he's starting up now.
disc-related back pain? Anybody want to take a guess?
Senior citizen.
Senior citizen,
So it's at 25.
25. Someone's doing homework. Nobody else should
Excuse me?
answer because she's on the
You
money.
got your knee at 19.
That's correct.
So, then you don't have to be a senior citizen.
You
for that.
certainly don't have to be. As a matter of fact,
That's his knee, that's not a disc.
right, not, the knee and the back are not the same thing. You're right. But here's the answer. Yeah, here's the answer.
It could stop, doesn't mean.
Under 35 is the most common time to have a disc-related problem. 35 to 50 still makes sense. So if you're under 50 and you have back pain, and it makes sense with your symptoms, to what it shows on the MRI, that you have a disc problem, then chances are your back pain is in fact caused by a disc. However, if you are over 50, then even if it says on your MRI that you have disc problems, chances are that the disc is not what's actually causing your problem. Doesn't mean you don't have a disc bulging. You do. If it shows it on the MRI, then you do. But that does not necessarily relate to what's causing your pain. This is really, really important. The disc is full of fluid. As we age, the disc has less and less fluid, right? That's why some of you can attest that you don't get any taller as you get older, right? You tend to get shorter over time. And that is not an accident, and it is not a fluke, and it does happen to everybody because the discs have less and less fluid in them, so there's less space in between them. So you get shorter. When the discs are less fluid, the pressure that they exert on the nerve becomes less. So even though your disc is bulging, it is not likely the cause of your problem. Now, what does, this is for you, because you already know all the answers.
And as you get older,
Yeah?
I read
Mhm.
that pain could get less.
Yes, it should
Because
be.
the fluid is
That's-
less, so it's going to be
that's
less pain
correct.
and weakening on the disc of the back.
That is absolutely correct. Now,
It's
what-
possible, doesn't mean for sure everybody. but
Also correct.
it's-
But what motions will hurt somebody with a disc problem?
Bending over the wrong way.
Bending forward. So if your pain is worst when you bend forward, right? Or if you're sitting for a long time, right? That is likely caused by a disc. Because every time you bend forward, the front of this pinches together. Think of a balloon with, water in it, and you push the front, and all the water goes to the back, right?